There are people in this world who seem to exist solely to disrupt your peace. They drain your energy with their constant negativity, manipulate your emotions with their calculated words, and leave you questioning your own sanity. These toxic individuals have a way of pulling you into their chaos, making you react in ways that betray your deepest values. But what if I told you that the ancient Stoics discovered something profound about dealing with such people? What if the secret isn't to fight fire with fire, but to become like water, flowing around obstacles, remaining clear, and never losing your essential nature? The Stoics understood that toxic people are not your problem to solve. Your only responsibility is to protect your inner citadel, to respond rather than react, and to maintain your virtue regardless of how others choose to behave. This is not about becoming cold or indifferent to genuine human suffering. This is about recognizing that some people operate from a place of deep woundedness, and while we can have compassion for their pain, we must never allow their toxicity to poison our own well-being. The first and perhaps most powerful tool in the Stoic arsenal is the art of strategic silence. Marcus Aurelius wrote that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. We should listen twice as much as we speak. But when dealing with toxic people, silence becomes even more profound. It becomes a form of strength, a refusal to feed the drama that toxic individuals thrive upon. When someone hurls accusations, insults, or attempts to provoke you into an emotional reaction, your silence speaks volumes. It says that you will not be drawn into their storm. Toxic people often expect and even crave your reaction because it gives them a sense of power and control. They want to see you lose your composure, to witness your carefully constructed inner peace crumble. But when you respond with thoughtful silence, you rob them of that satisfaction. You become like a mountain, unmoved by the winds that rage around it. This doesn't mean you become passive or allow yourself to be walked over. It means you choose your battles wisely and refuse to engage in conflicts that serve no purpose other than to drain your energy and disturb your tranquility. Between every stimulus and response lies a sacred space, the pause. Epictetus taught that we cannot control what happens to us, but we can always control our response. The toxic person's words or actions are the stimulus. Your reaction is the response. And in that brief moment between the two lies your freedom, your power, and your opportunity to act with wisdom rather than emotion. Most people react instantly, allowing their emotions to dictate their behavior. But the Stoic practices the sacred pause. When someone says something designed to hurt or provoke you, you don't immediately fire back. You breathe. You count to 3, or 5, or 10. You ask yourself what the wisest version of yourself would do in this moment. This pause is not weakness. It is the ultimate expression of self-mastery. It allows you to see the situation clearly, without the fog of emotion clouding your judgment. In this pause, you might realize that the toxic person's behavior has nothing to do with you and everything to do with their own inner turmoil. You might recognize that engaging with them will only pull you down to their level. The pause gives you the space to choose a response that aligns with your values rather than one that simply satisfies your immediate emotional impulse. Boundaries are not walls built to keep people out. They are bridges built to let the right people in while maintaining your inner sanctity. Seneca understood this when he wrote about the importance of guarding our time and energy as precious resources. When dealing with toxic people, boundaries become essential for your psychological and emotional survival. These boundaries are not about punishing others or being cruel. They are about clearly defining what behavior you will and will not accept in your presence. A toxic person might try to guilt you, manipulate you, or make you feel selfish for setting these boundaries. But remember that their reaction to your healthy boundaries often reveals the very toxicity you're trying to protect yourself from. Strong boundaries mean saying no without feeling the need to over-explain or justify your decision. They mean refusing to engage in conversations that consistently leave you feeling drained or upset. They mean recognizing that you are not responsible for managing other people's emotions or fixing their problems. When you set clear boundaries, you create a protective space around your inner peace. You signal to both yourself and others that your well-being matters and that you will not compromise your mental health for the sake of keeping the peace with someone who brings nothing but chaos. Perhaps one of the most counterintuitive Stoic principles is the idea that indifference can be a form of strength. This doesn't mean becoming heartless or uncaring about human suffering. It means becoming indifferent to the opinions, criticisms, and manipulations of those who seek to disturb your peace. Marcus Aurelius frequently reminded himself that the opinions of others, especially those driven by malice or ignorance, are external things that cannot truly harm him unless he allows them to. When a toxic person tries to belittle you, criticize your choices, or make you feel small, your indifference becomes your armor. You neither fight against their words nor absorb them into your sense of self. You simply let them pass through you like wind through a tree. This indifference is not about suppressing your emotions or pretending not to care. It's about recognizing that the toxic person's behavior is a reflection of their inner state, not a commentary on your worth. Their anger, their cruelty, their attempts to manipulate you, these are symptoms of their own suffering and confusion. When you truly understand this, their words lose their power to wound you. You can observe their behavior with the same detached curiosity you might have when watching storm clouds gather in the distance. You acknowledge the storm's existence without feeling the need to dance in the rain. Every toxic person you encounter is, in a strange way, a gift from the universe, a test of your virtue, your patience, and your commitment to living according to your highest principles. Epictetus taught that every challenge we face is an opportunity to practice virtue, and toxic people are no exception. They test your ability to remain calm under pressure, to respond with kindness when met with cruelty, and to maintain your integrity when others abandon theirs. This perspective transforms your relationship with difficult people. Instead of seeing them as obstacles to your happiness, you begin to see them as unwitting teachers, providing you with opportunities to strengthen your character. When someone is unreasonably angry with you, you practice patience. When someone tries to manipulate you, you practice discernment. When someone speaks to you with disrespect, you practice self-respect by refusing to engage at their level. This doesn't mean you enjoy dealing with toxic people or that you seek out conflict. It means you recognize that these challenging interactions, when approached with the right mindset, can actually accelerate your spiritual and emotional growth. You begin to see that your response to toxicity is a measure of your inner development. The more centered and unshakable you become, the less external chaos affects your inner peace. One of the most insidious tactics of toxic people is their ability to entangle you in their emotional drama. They draw you into arguments, make you defend yourself against false accusations, or involve you in their conflicts with others. The Stoics understood that this kind of entanglement is a trap that leads nowhere good. Seneca advised that we should be very careful about which battles we choose to fight, recognizing that some conflicts are simply not worth our time or energy. When you refuse to become entangled with emotional manipulators, you preserve your peace and maintain your focus on what truly matters. This means not taking the bait when someone tries to provoke you into an argument. It means refusing to defend yourself against accusations that you know to be false, recognizing that the people who matter will see the truth for themselves. It means not getting involved in other people's drama, even when they try to pull you in by making it seem like your involvement is necessary or noble. The Stoic recognizes that some people thrive on chaos and conflict, and the only way to win this game is not to play. By remaining detached from their emotional manipulation, you protect your energy for the people and activities that truly deserve your attention. Sometimes the most powerful response to toxicity is a strategic retreat into solitude. This is not about running away from problems or avoiding necessary confrontations. It's about recognizing when your environment has become too poisoned for your peace of mind and temporarily removing yourself to restore your inner equilibrium. Marcus Aurelius often wrote about the importance of retreating into the inner citadel of the self, that quiet place within where external chaos cannot reach. When toxic people seem to be everywhere, at work, in your social circle, even in your family, solitude becomes a sanctuary. In these moments of retreat, you can reconnect with your values, remind yourself of what truly matters, and restore the perspective that toxic people often try to distort. Solitude allows you to process your experiences without the constant input of others' opinions and judgments. It gives you space to hear your own voice above the noise of external drama. This retreat is not permanent isolation. It's a strategic pause that allows you to return to your interactions with renewed strength and clarity. When you emerge from these periods of solitude, you often find that the toxic people and situations that seem so overwhelming before now appear much smaller and more manageable. Marcus Aurelius gave us one of the most empowering principles in all of Stoic philosophy when he reminded us that we always own our response, regardless of the circumstances we face. No matter how toxic, manipulative, or cruel another person might be, they cannot force you to abandon your principles or react in ways that betray your character. Your response always belongs to you. This ownership is both liberating and challenging. It's liberating because it means you are never truly powerless in any situation. Even when you cannot control what others do or say, you retain complete control over how you choose to respond. It's challenging because it means you cannot blame your poor choices on other people's behavior. If you choose to respond to toxicity with more toxicity, that choice is yours alone. When you fully embrace this principle, you begin to see every interaction with a toxic person as an opportunity to exercise your freedom to choose your response. You might choose patience when they offer impatience. You might choose kindness when they offer cruelty. You might choose silence when they offer chaos. Each of these choices reinforces your sense of personal agency and reminds you that your character is determined not by what happens to you, but by how you choose to respond to what happens to you. One of the most damaging effects of toxic people is their ability to make you believe that their behavior is somehow a reflection of your worth or value as a person. They might criticize, belittle, or attack you in ways that feel deeply personal, but the Stoics understood a fundamental truth about human behavior. The way people treat others is always a reflection of their inner state, not a commentary on the worth of those they're treating poorly. When someone is consistently cruel, manipulative, or disrespectful, they are revealing something about their own character, their own pain, and their own level of emotional development. Their behavior toward you says nothing about who you are and everything about who they are. This understanding is profoundly liberating because it frees you from the need to take their actions personally. You can observe their toxicity with the same detached compassion you might feel when watching someone struggle with a physical illness. You recognize that their cruelty is a symptom of their own inner suffering, and while you don't excuse their behavior, you also don't absorb it as a reflection of your own value. This perspective allows you to maintain your self-respect and sense of worth, even when dealing with people who seem determined to tear you down. Expectations are the root of most of our suffering when dealing with toxic people. We expect them to be reasonable when they've shown us repeatedly that they're not. We expect them to change when they've demonstrated no interest in growth. We expect them to treat us with the same respect and kindness that we offer them, only to be disappointed time and again. The Stoics taught that our expectations of others, particularly our expectations that they will behave according to our standards rather than their own nature, are a source of unnecessary pain. When you release your expectations of toxic people, you free yourself from the cycle of disappointment and frustration that comes from hoping they will be different than they are. This doesn't mean you accept poor treatment or lower your standards for how you deserve to be treated. It means you stop expecting people to rise to standards they've never shown any interest in meeting. You begin to see them clearly, without the filter of hope or wishful thinking. This clarity allows you to make better decisions about how much energy to invest in the relationship and what level of interaction is healthy for you. When you stop expecting toxic people to suddenly become kind, reasonable, or respectful, you can begin to interact with them based on who they actually are, not who you wish they would be. Energy is the most precious resource you possess, more valuable than time, money, or any material possession. The Stoics understood that we must be incredibly selective about where we direct our attention and energy, because once spent, they cannot be recovered. Toxic people are energy vampires. They drain your vitality, enthusiasm, and peace of mind, often giving nothing positive in return. Learning to be selective about who receives your energy is not selfishness, it's wisdom. It's recognizing that you have a limited amount of emotional and mental resources, and you must invest them in ways that align with your values and contribute to your well-being. This means choosing to spend your energy on relationships that are mutual, supportive, and growth-oriented, rather than on people who consistently take without giving back. It means recognizing that some people will never appreciate your kindness, no matter how much you offer them, and that continuing to pour your energy into such relationships is like trying to fill a bucket with holes in the bottom. When you become selective about your energy investment, you create space for relationships and activities that truly nourish your soul. You begin to surround yourself with people who lift you up rather than tear you down, who challenge you to grow rather than keep you stuck in cycles of drama and negativity. The final and perhaps most profound Stoic principle for dealing with toxic people is the practice of detachment and the cultivation of your inner world. This is not about becoming cold or uncaring, but about recognizing that your peace, happiness, and sense of self-worth must come from within rather than from external validation or circumstances. Marcus Aurelius spent much of his time focusing on his inner life, his thoughts, his character, and his relationship with virtue. He understood that the external world, including the behavior of other people, was largely outside his control, but his inner world was entirely his domain. When you cultivate a rich inner life, through reflection, study, creative pursuits, spiritual practice, or whatever feeds your soul, you become less dependent on others for your emotional well-being. You develop an inner sanctuary that remains peaceful regardless of the chaos that might surround you. This inner strength makes you less susceptible to the manipulations and provocations of toxic people because your sense of self is not dependent on their approval or behavior. You become like a tree with deep roots. You might bend in the storms of life, but you will not break. This detachment is not indifference to the world, but rather a deep understanding that your primary responsibility is to maintain your own virtue and peace of mind, and that you can best serve others from this place of inner strength. The path of the Stoic is not about avoiding difficult people or retreating from the challenges of human relationships. It is about learning to move through the world with such inner strength and wisdom that external circumstances, including the behavior of toxic people, cannot shake your fundamental peace and sense of self. The 12 principles we've explored are not meant to be used as weapons against others, but as tools for your own liberation from the emotional chaos that toxic people often create. They are invitations to rise above the petty dramas and manipulations that keep so many people trapped in cycles of reactivity and suffering. Remember that becoming unshakable in the face of toxicity is not a destination, but a practice. There will be days when you forget these principles, when you react instead of respond, when you allow someone else's behavior to disturb your peace. This is part of being human. The Stoic path is not about perfection, but about returning again and again to wisdom, about choosing growth over stagnation, peace over chaos, and virtue over the easy path of reaction. When you master these principles, you discover something remarkable. You no longer need toxic people to change for you to be happy. Your happiness, your peace, your sense of worth become independent of their behavior. And paradoxically, when you no longer need them to be different, you often find that your calm, centered presence begins to influence them in ways that all your arguing and pleading never could. You become a living example of what it means to be free, not from difficult circumstances, but free within them. This is the ultimate victory of the Stoic spirit, not the conquest of others, but the mastery of oneself.